What does he sound like? Jack, earbuds. Josh, what'd you do for number 1? How's Mary feel about her husband? Yeah.
Mary loves her husband because she anticipates his arrival for work. That's why she loves her husband. That's correct. I mean, like, that's how you can tell.
Okay, so Josh, I'm not going to fill in all of it quite yet. So Mary loves her husband because you said she anticipates his arrival from work. I could anticipate something.
I mean, like you could tell she loves him because
You don't need to raise your voice. She waits for some.
she like anticipates.
I was like, okay.
I mean, I worded it weird, but that's what I mean is you can tell that she loves him because
That's where all my pens have been going.
because she anticipates him.
What does she do in anticipation of him coming home?
She makes him a drink. She like gets the stuff ready.
Okay. So Mary loves her husband because she anticipates, I still think that's a good word,
Yeah.
anticipates his arrival. And then what I could do here is add the word by. Now I have my details coming in. So anticipates his arrival by preparing a drink. What does she like to do for her feet? She gets his slippers ready. She has seat ready for him to go so that he can sit down, relax, all that kind of stuff. So anticipates his arrival by preparing a drink, getting his slippers, and we could put in a word like an adverb like fondly waiting for him. So keep in mind, anticipates, a lot of times it might be a positive connotation. You're anticipating next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. School will be out, 6-day weekend, break that you don't have to worry about. At the same time, you could be anticipating getting your wisdom teeth pulled out, but you're not looking forward to it, but you're still kind of getting ready, preparing yourself. So make sure that when you go into how do we know that she loves her husband, how does she feel about him, that those details that you would include would certainly be positive things that would let us know about that overall relationship. Number 2. How can you tell that something is disturbing, Patrick? How can you tell something's disturbing?
He never really looks directly at her. Kind of keeps his face. And then he says that they do.
Okay. So
I also
avoiding
have that he pound his drink.
so avoiding eye contact, gulping his drink, gulping the drink. Maddie, do you have anything else you're gonna add? With his eye contact, Jack, and then, how does the light fall across his face when he's sitting there as he starts to speak? Because part of him is visible, part of him is not. Remember which?
His eyes.
Which half? Bottom or top?
Bottom. Half.
Mouth covered, eyes can see. What does she notice about his one eye? Left eye, Tyler? There's a little bit of a twitch, which can mean different things. So if you're a poker player and someone's going to be, is bluffing, they might have like a twitch or a call to him. Some would say if you're nervous about something, there could be a little bit of a twitch, but there's something about his one eye that makes it seem as if maybe he's not too comfortable or not too confident, feeling a little bit anxious. So how can you tell something is disturbing Patrick? Patrick is anxious or Patrick is nervous. Patrick is disturbed. Common word that's going to get used probably with these is going to be because. Jack, what was the first one that you said?
Wait. Check.
In a second.
The first one.
No, he doesn't want
That's
her
not
to
the
die.
first one that you said.
Oh, he won't want her anything else.
Okay, because he gulps his drink, avoid eye contact, avoids eye contact, and has a nervous twitch to his eye. Okay. Justice, I know you don't have your sheet with you, but for number 3, what can you tell about Mary's relationship with her husband from their dialogue? Do you remember any details from the kind of conversation they had?
It seems like he's like annoying her. Like she's trying to be like nice, like do you want me to do this or that? And he's like,
What's the most common word that he says?
Sit down.
stop.
Or, well, and like, no, like it's some kind of negative. Sit down. No, stop talking about it.
I just heard like Mary's relationship with
Nate, what was it?
Mary's relationship with Patrick is not strong because he's quiet and he gives her short answers.
Okay, so it's a very terse conversation with him. Yes, you can sign off with that now. So from the dialogue, whether you're looking at the specific word choice that he uses, such as no or sit down, or the kind of dialogue that takes place, since the dialogue is brief, short, and lacks. If you have a good relationship, you would think there would be a lot of positive emotion. This seems to lack caring, positive connotation words to it, lacks loving words. The reader knows that the relationship is troubled. So what we're doing is, again, we're getting specific details coming from the dialogue where we're making an inference at this point that even though we don't have even though we don't know precisely what they are thinking in their head, we can tell from the types of words that they're using or the lack of words that they're using a pretty good idea as to how that relationship's ultimately unfolding. Tommy, why is Mary suddenly frightened?
Very happy because he's happy and strange.
What do we mean by strange? Okay. So Patrick seems to be quote unquote on edge. Cesare, what was the word that you said that he uses, or the phrase that he uses a good bit? Sit down, which is going to be a little bit more demanding, a little bit more assertive, not going to have that warm, fuzzy kind of feeling to it, Maddie. That's why we're not okay. Because you're going to say something and I steal it from you. Nate, did you have another one?
Just like when she gets something
Sit down right away, as opposed to trying to get some kind of food ready, some kind of meal ready that you would think a person would be happy about. So since Patrick seems to be on edge and ultimately demanding. And so yeah, primary example of that would be the sit down that he keeps saying over and over again. Number 5, and we kind of started to hint towards this one already. How can you tell that Patrick is feeling nervous and perhaps ashamed, Nate?
What did she do with his body?
Well, you're not answering number 5 yet. We'll get to it.
He's feeling nervous and ashamed because he's hiding himself in the shadows.
Okay. So Patrick is nervous and ashamed. I'm going to use since just because we use because quite a bit. Since he hides himself in the shadows. To the question as to what does he do with the body, she doesn't have to do anything to the body. By her going, who takes care of the body? The police end up taking care of it. So he's killed. She then goes to the grocer, which we'll get into the whole alibi and all that kind of stuff here. She comes back, you call the police investigation comes in, pretty much goes through their normal routine, doing the questions and all that kind of stuff. Yes, she has the lamb going on in the oven at this point, but it's not that she has to get rid of the body, because if she tries to get rid of the body, that's a better chance of you drawing attention to herself. I came home, he was like this, I have absolutely no idea what happened. So she doesn't want to do anything to the body because the police will go through their whole procedure investigation. They'll take it out, at that point as assume a homicide at this point. So she doesn't have any responsibility with sticking that in the freezer with the leg of lamb, putting him through the meat grinder or any of those kind of gruesome details because the police will take care of it all for herself. Yeah, and physically what would she be able to do? Who knows at that point? Number 6. What seems to be Patrick's greatest concern as he delivers the news? What seems to be his greatest concern as he's delivering the news? Okay, so he's worried about her reaction. And if she were to make a big fuss with her reaction, since he has a very public official job as a policeman, that could cause a little bit of an issue with the whole public relations department. So what seems to be his greatest concerns as he delivers this news, he wants Mary to accept the news without making a big deal, so that it won't affect his work. You could say in one way she doesn't make a big deal because she doesn't yell at him about it. In another way, she makes a big deal because she does. That is a good question. I don't think so.
She was like, man, I hate you so much, I'm gonna beat you with this super heavy piece of lamb.
I think, well, in here, we'll lead this into number 7. Situational irony. Why is Mary's violent act so unexpected? Let's kind of start with that part and then get into does she really mean it. Why is that action that she does so unexpected?
In the beginning, she seemed to love and care for him so much.
Okay, and even though, yes, terrible news has happened that you would expect to make her upset, because Mary is such a, let's say, calm, loving, docile person, one would not expect such a violent act from her.
She didn't want him with anyone else.
Here's my take on it. You want me to get dinner ready? No. And then goes through all this news. So there you have it. Please don't make a big fuss out of it. She's probably in total, utter, complete shock at this point. And certainly how you handle those kind of situations is going to vary from person to person. I think she just simply kind of gets up, goes down to the freezer. I'm going to go through the routine of kind of having an everyday life, everyday, act. Or maybe subconsciously you're hoping that this doesn't happen, that it goes away. You're carrying the leg of lamb up, and then all of a sudden you see him standing there. At that point, the switch flips, you get upset, and you just hit him over the head.
He said like,
Yeah, he said,
Yeah.
not to worry about dinner.
Don't worry about
oh, dude, that's what set her off.
He sent him go.
She was like, this is a piece of lamb.
Yeah, he said, don't worry about me.
She's like, I need to start this thing. She's like, oh man, I'm gonna make this delicious lamb. He's like, don't worry about dinner. And she's just like,
Oh, you're really wailing. And keep in mind, this is not a pork chop. This is not a lamb chop. This is pretty much, and for the reading check quiz that you put yesterday, a lot of you were putting a steel club or some kind of blunt, a steel rod, some kind of blunt object to it. This is probably about a 2.5 foot frozen piece of meat with bone running through it that's been in that freezer for who knows how long. There is going to be some serious weight behind it. This is like taking a baseball bat to somebody. So, you have that swing right down on top of him. Yes, you're going to be taking him out in absolutely no time.
No way did she hit him and then just be like, alright, but he's gonna be okay and we'll just forget about that. I just don't remember that.
And
that she would give him like a shock.
He said something to her and then she was like, I'm just gonna kill him.
And I wouldn't use the word vague to describe it from a story standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint. a lot of stories work really well when it's very ambiguous. And so like even like Gregor would be an example of this. Did he really turn into Buzz? Did he really not? When something is ambiguous, it's not that you simply don't know, but it's that you can make multiple arguments for it. That yes, she had the intent to do it. No, she's just in shock. Yes, Gregor's a bug. You know, otherwise why would he describe himself in that way? No, a person can't turn into a bug. But if a person's going to, they can make it ambiguous where you can get almost equal support for both ideas, and that's what kind of allows for suspense and all that kind of aspect with the story that takes place.
She didn't even care though. She was just like, oh.
Well, keep it.
She was like, alright, well, I'm gonna go to the grocery store.
How, not a question on here. How would you describe the tone of the story? So like in one word, and there could be multiple answers, but like the tone of the story, what would be a word that you would use to describe it?
Kafka.
Yeah, you could go
Come on.
Kafka-esque.
Well, that's 2 words.
No, that's one. It's a dash. E-S. Evil.
Strange.
Sinister.
Psycho.
Anyone think it's funny?
I find it ironic.
Yeah, you could go ironic. But, you know, some folks could read it, and this doesn't mean that you're a terrible person, but, you know, when the police sergeant goes, I know that weapon's here somewhere, it could be right underneath our noses, and they're picking up the meat and eating it. Josh over there is chuckling to it, not meaning that he's going to plan that same kind of act, hopefully. But in some ways, the tone is very sinister, but it's kind of a darkly fun story that also is kind of taking place with it.
I'm not trying to recreate
Did you have something? And the fact that you have a pregnant, we don't know how old she is, but you know, a fairly young woman. She is the anti-villainous kind of character. If you were characterizing what is a evil person going to be, she doesn't fit the mold. And so in some ways, that's kind of what makes that darkly comic aspect to it, you know, all the more real with it. All right, 382. Now that the event has happened, what is Mary planning to do next, and what is her motivation for this plan? There could be some multiple things that kind of come up with it. But after he has been killed, now what's the plan? What does she need to do?
She goes to the grocery store to get an alibi so she can avoid the
Okay, so we got a couple things that are going on. What is Mary planning to do next? Mary wants to go to the grocer. To create, and we've heard this term many times in our law shows and all that kind of stuff, alibi. Spelling of alibi is A-L-I-B-I. Mary wants to go to the grocer to create an alibi so that she avoids the death penalty, or an unborn child, or a child could be born and then mother, you know, taken away from her. So Mary wants to go to the grocer to create an alibi so that she avoids the death penalty. And what does she even do before she goes to the grocer? Sits on the bed, looks at the mirror, rehearsing it so that as she speaks, it's going to be as natural as possible, so that it's not robotic with whatever the guy is doing right there.
The guy drawing
You're smart.
all over her face. She's like, that's smart. Oh, his grocery store is like a one shelf. Hi, it's me.
Yeah, it'd be like a little general store. Number 9. Why is Mary talking so much and giving the grocer so much information? Okay.
And she can be a witness, like, so he can say that she was just kind of acting joyful. Not like she just goes.
So by giving the grocer so much information, you would say Mary makes herself feel like seems more natural, pleasant. So Mary comes across as being natural and pleasant. I would say from a police standpoint, there's one other reason why she's giving so much information. Okay, it helps solidify the alibi. Because if the police come up and go, well, where were you while the murder was taking place? I went to see Sam the grocer. I went to pick up dinner and all that kind of stuff. What's the police next move? At least one of the moves. They're going to go see Sam the grocer. We have no idea how many people come into this store all the time. By her giving so much information about details of the food and her husband and all that kind of stuff, from Sam's point of view, it makes her much more memorable. So, did Mary Maloney come in? Yeah, I remember talking to her. We talked about cheesecake and getting peas and potatoes and all that kind of stuff. She has a leg of lamb. There's a roast that she had going on in the oven. So all those details end up collaborating with Mary's story. She can give an alibi that, yeah, I went to Giant Eagle. Brendan's working to check out, did a lady come in and get some peas and potatoes? Listen, I've had 50,000 people come in the last 2 hours. I have no idea what I scanned, what I didn't for folks. I don't remember. So if she's solidifying her alibi, she's making herself much more memorable in Sam's eyes so that when the police come, they'll end up being able to remind her a little bit more. 383, with this scene now. So this is when we're still talking to Sam the grocer. What would be the example of dramatic irony in this point with her conversation with Sam?
It's like after conversation. She talks about like him waiting at home for dinner.
And the dramatic irony is?
Who's that?
Okay. So whether it be he's waiting or going through, we want to make Sam's favorite meal, doesn't matter because Sam's not going to be eating the meal. Sam's not going to be waiting since he is already dead because she has killed her. So the dramatic irony. See if we show up here. Brendan, Jack. It's going all period. We two talking. And now the Apple TV gods are not happy at you. And it's making my life more difficult. Her deceased at this point. So dramatic irony in this scene is that Mary speaks about making dinner for Patrick, comma, compound sentence here, but Patrick is already dead. Now, the big opinion poll question. Mary Maloney has just murdered her husband. She's carrying out a pretty devious plan to escape punishment, yet most readers find her a sympathetic character. Number one, you could argue, do you agree that she's sympathetic? Mia was saying absolutely not yesterday because she kills her husband. Doesn't matter what happened. But how does she go about creating sympathy for herself?
Is this like before she like talks to
At any time it could be really.
she just like comes home and she says to herself like she's gonna act the way that nothing ever happened. Or like she's just gonna come home and like feel bad and cry and stuff.
So, like, when she does come home, like, you do get the sense that she's actually startled that her husband is laying there dead, that there's blood, coming from his head, where there's a little bit of shock that, oh my goodness, he is actually gone. And at this point, yes, we know she's the one responsible for it, but she could still very much be upset that her husband is dead, and that could kind of help create sympathy. Yeah. And she certainly is a victim, not the same way that Patrick is, but she is a victim that her husband, who she's been married to, we assume, for a decent number of years, when maybe at least very vulnerable part of her life, 6 months pregnant, child coming along the way, he's about to leave, that's certainly going to be creating sympathy. So she is able to kind of create the sympathy with the way that she treats her husband, but certainly also the things that her husband does to her is going to cause the reader to maybe not agree with what Mary does, but certainly understand her plight. Yeah. So Mary is sympathetic because she loved her husband and seems upset that he is deceased. She might still be happy about it in some ways too, because of what happened with her leaving, but certainly does seem to at least kind of have feelings of remorse, upset, sadness that he's no longer there. Do you find Mary's behavior believable when she comes home? Why or why not? Do you think she really is sad when she sees her husband laying there on the floor?
I said yes because when she initially told him, I don't think she was in the right state of mind at that point. But I think after like going out and then like coming back and actually seeing him dead, it just like clicked in her mind that like something wasn't right and she didn't see it.
It's like a different lens, a different perspective that you're looking at what would be a very gruesome murder scene. I mean, he's been beaten to death. This isn't like a simple little. Must have been good. Look.
I believe it because there's nobody around that's like fake it and she's expressing her feelings.
Yeah. So for sake of time, I'm not going to write all the things down, but the idea that the scene would still kind of be a bit of a shock to her, to what she would have to see with the whole crime scene, but then also that she's not like kind of creating an alibi at this point. There's not someone there watching her to see what her reaction would be, but that she's pretty much, the fact that she is alone, you could think that it's a more authentic or genuine response. If you know you're putting on a show for people, you might act one way, but if people aren't around, certainly could be a different kind of example. 384, what's seen on this page would be an example of dramatic irony. What do we have happening on page 384 where dramatic irony would take place, Jack?
She calls the cops, and they come. They already started cleaning up everything, making sure that they're who it is. They don't suspect.
And what are they looking for? What do we know?
They're eating it.
Well, they're not eating it quite yet at this point. No, we know exactly where it is. Manny, good. No. Okay, so the whole, we know that she's the one who's responsible for it. We know what the weapon was. Okay?
And like when they're asking her, she just said that she comes home like sees everything.
So we know all the details. The fact that she was the one who did it, that she was already aware of what had happened. So the idea about the details of the scene, specifically the weapon of the scene, where they're looking for a wrench, a spanner, some kind of big heavy object, and then also who the perpetrator is, who is responsible. We know that Mary is the one that's going to be responsible for that. How is the point of view of Mary giving her story to the policeman for number 14 suspenseful? And I'd say even 15 kind of plays off of this a little bit as well. And maybe even answering 15 first would be appropriate. Do the police seem to suspect that Mary might be the murderer? At all, ever, at any time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how can you tell?
They said it should be considered a suspect.
Everyone should be considered a suspect, and they ask.
She was trying to like eat, not bribing, but like she was trying to make them eat. But
Make them feel comfortable.
yeah.
Yeah, and initially they don't want to have any kind of part to do with it. They're certainly asking her a whole bunch of questions. Where were you? What happened? Describe the scene, just to make sure that her story's kind of going to match up with what they end up getting an alibi from Sam. Is she a suspect for a long amount of time? No, they pretty much dismiss her then pretty quickly, and then at that point are going to be more willing to help her out by eating the meal, which is going to end up being the murder weapon. But as she then goes through, how's this point of view of Mary giving her story to the policeman end up kind of being a little suspenseful? And the dramatic irony would kind of add into this. What do Adrian, did you have? Yeah. Is she going to say something that's going to kind of have this little clue where, wait a minute, what was that again? And then kind of repeat about it. So we know that she's the one responsible. There's some suspense as to will they figure it out? Will she say something that could end up foiling the whole plan? And now she's made herself, the obvious perpetrator to the police. And you can certainly tell that, yeah, they do suspect her at least for a little bit because they go through all those kind of questions. Last one, dramatic irony. What are they doing Mary a favor by eating up the leg of lamb? Why do they agree to the request? The big dramatic thing is going to be, They get rid of the evidence. You know, if you have any chance of like DNA and all that kind of stuff on something, eating the leg of lamb takes care of that. They certainly think they're doing it to kind of help her out.
Would they be arrested for destruction?
What if they were? No, because they're not really doing it.
I mean,
You could argue that they would get in trouble for, you know, on the job eating the meal there. What would kind of folks might not be a big deal is this is a colleague of theirs, so you're pretty much like you know helping out the family. Yeah, she has.
I don't know. If I was a police chief and I just figured out my employees just ate. I want to know what happens after.
That'll be tomorrow's creative writing assignment when you do part 2. Not really, but